How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Sam. Today we're talking about a potential third base target for this Yankee team. Now, we've been talking about the outfield extensively. Cody Bellinger, Dylan Carlson, Brendan Donovan. There's so many guys the Yankees could go out and try to upgrade this outfield with, but we haven't discussed the hot corner much. After Josh Donaldson went down, you kind of see DJ LeMahieu a little bit. You see Oswald Peraza. We don't know what they're going to do with Peraza yet. They're probably going to leverage him in a trade if I was to guess right now. And then if you look at DJ LeMahieu, he's been a little bit inconsistent. He's been hitting better as of late, but I like him more in that utility role instead of that everyday kind of starting third baseman role. I like him being able to move around, help mitigate fatigue in other places. So we want to talk about one guy, Jaime Candelario, which is a really interesting option currently with the Washington Nationals, and they're looking to sell, and he's one of those pieces they could sell on. He's played 91 games this year. He's been pretty healthy the last couple of seasons, and he's been pretty great defensively as well. Offensively, there's value there. We're going to talk about him. We're going to break it down for you, what this would kind of look like. And now he is a rental. He's on a 1-year, $5 million deal right now, so the Yankees, who don't want to accumulate a lot of salary, acquire a lot of salary on this market, they wouldn't be acquiring much salary. The Washington Nationals probably pay the rest of his contract. They could decide on extending him beyond the season, kind of see how that would go. But he'd certainly be a big upgrade over what we have now. But Sam, before we dive into things, how do you do today, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good. I think that, Jaime Candelario is a slam dunk type of move. It's an easy move for the Yankees to make. And, right now when you look at that position, I know you tapped on the depth a little bit. You talked about DJ LeMahieu, and really it's good to have him in that utility role just because we've seen him with the injuries and the toe thing and what's happened over the past couple of years just because he's been playing every day. And I feel like Oswald Peraza is something down the line that you want to explore, and we've kind of all been pushing for him to get reps at third base just because that's the position that needs to be filled and that's where he can fit in on this team. But with Jaime Candelario, this is a rental bat. He's $5 million right now. It's not going to cost you a lot. He's been an incredible defender this year. He's 94th percentile in OAA. He's got 7 OAA. And then with the bat, I want to say he has a 115 WRC plus with 16 home runs. He's not great from the right-handed side, but from the left-handed side is what this team needs. It's what we scream for at every trade deadline is trading for a left-handed bat with that short porch that we have in Yankee Stadium. And him having 16 home runs in Nationals Park or whatever it's called out there is impressive. And to move, to Yankee Stadium, I just feel like those numbers would only rise. And I don't necessarily think that this is a player that they will keep long-term, really. But right now, for that, kind of playoff push, I feel like Candelario would be a perfect fit. I know Ryan loves Candelario, and, he would just kind of fit in well with this team, switch hitting bat, can play third base. He's played first base a couple times, not extensively, but, it's just another gap that you can fill. And realistically, as far as the infield goes, I feel like all the positions are locked down outside of third base just because of what you've seen, the struggles with DJ LeMahieu and that kind of stuff. And that's just another gap that you want to fill. And I know that there's, multiple areas really that this team needs to attack. And I feel like if the Yankees do trade for Candelario, it wouldn't be the only move. There would be, numerous moves outside of that, and he would be a bit as a part of the trade deadline. So I just feel like it's a slam dunk type of move because it's going to be super cheap. He's going to be a good bat for you. He plays great defense. I just think it would work out perfectly, and I'm 100% all here for it because, if you're really trying to make that playoff push, that's a guy that you go out and get. You go and get Jaime Candelario.
And that's kind of the narrative that we're trying to express right now, is that if the Yankees feel like they can still win, they can still push, this is a nice win-now move. Now, you don't really know if you're going to extend it beyond this season. He's a decent player. This year he's in 257 with a 335 OBP, has 16 homers, 50 RBIs, 119 WRC plus, meaning he's 19% better than the average player offensively this season, 2.9 WAR. This is a fine player. This is a guy you go out and get, and he's not going to do anything astronomical for you. He's not going to be red hot like Cody Bellinger is right now, but he's going to be fine. He did hit 297 with a 370 OBP for the Detroit Tigers back in 2020. Now, he wasn't that good defensively, but offensively he was tremendous. 140 WRC plus this year. He's a good player, not great. He is 31 years old, so extending him, or rather 29, sorry, so extending him is, I wouldn't say unrealistic. I wouldn't be going long-term for Jaime Candelario. I'd be saying like a 2-year deal, maybe something like Rizzo. You kind of give him a little bit of money, but again, like there might be better options. Maybe you want to go internal. You got Trey Sweeney if Peraza sticks around. You kind of see what you can do there. But if the Yankees feel as though they can win now, I feel like Candelario does make a lot of sense. Now, talking about a package prospect to actually give up for him, he's going to be cheap to acquire. Like, he's not that good. Like, he's a fine player, but he's a little bit streaky. Like, he doesn't get on base very well. He doesn't have an 8% walk rate, but only a 335 OBP this season, striking out about 21.1%, which is, around his career averages. So, he does have a 229 ISO, which is the best in his career. And he does have a 486 slugging percentage, which is the best since 2020. This year, he has a 37.9% hard hit rate with a 7.1% barrel rate. Max exit velocity is actually, doing pretty well. I think it's in the 72nd percentile, if I'm not mistaken. He's not a really fast guy. His arm strength is like he's not gonna, change the course of this team. But this is the argument, Sam, and I think this is kind of where I'm going with this, is if you get a couple of good players, it makes a big impact. If you get one good player, it doesn't really move the needle that much. If you get Judge back, if you get Candelario, if you get Cody Bellinger, maybe add a guy like Dylan Carlson, you can not have to give up all your top prospects, kind of shred the middle of your farm a little bit. To get guys that are going to be competing right now, and then maybe you extend Bellinger. I imagine that's kind of the direction the Yankees would want to go, because he does fit the profile of what we like in Yankee Stadium pretty nicely, and he's a very, very, very good defender, and he could take over for Harrison Bader, because the Yankees are going to have to make a decision in center field at some point. Bader's probably gone. He's injury prone. His offense is kind of fallen off. His defense is obviously great, but it's not enough for what the Yankees need. So I think that Bader's probably gone. After this year, you get Bellinger, extend him with that money you would have given to Bader anyway, and bam, you have a solution. So you can make a big impact with several good acquisitions, but one guy's not going to move the needle. So, what are you thinking about how many guys the Yankees will actually acquire this trade deadline? I think we're going to see a couple of moves here, personally.
Yeah, I really like the point that you brought up, that the Yankees really don't unload their farm at trade deadlines. I know that Brian Cashman gets his work done at the trade deadline. That's really where he makes his biggest impact for this team, is pretty much every year when he decides to reload. But I don't think he will unload the farm for an Ohtani or a Soto or somebody like that. Just because, just like you said, it doesn't move the needle that much, just because I feel like Cashman likes to leverage his short-term and long-term at the same time, instead of going all-out AJ Preller mode in San Diego and just throwing all your eggs in one basket. They've stated that they need to make multiple moves to make this team better. And I do think that they will make multiple moves to make this team better. Like you mentioned with Bellinger, I think that's another one. It's kind of in the same basket as Candelario, that he's like a slam dunk type of move. It's super easy. That's a move that the Yankees have to make. I think that at this point now, you lost Jose Trevino for the rest of the season, so you're down a catcher at that point. I don't know how much they trust Higgy and how much they trust, Ben Rove. I can't even pronounce his last name. So I feel like you make an upgrade there. We're here talking about Candelario. I think that's another guy that can easily slot in at third base. And then left field's just kind of like a black hole out there. So I feel like, we saw 2 years ago when they saw legitimate issues with Luke Voigt's health, and they went out and traded for Anthony Rizzo, and we just didn't see it coming. And it kind of feels like a very similar situation with DJ LeMahieu here, and, getting a guy like Candelario. I just feel like, they'll probably add, 4 or 5 guys to this team that will probably improve the lineup completely as a whole. And I feel like we're going to look at this roster in a couple weeks, and it's going to be completely different. I don't see a world where Brian Cashman just kind of, sits around and does nothing just because, his job is on the line. I feel like he wants to make that push into the playoffs, and they're not that far out of the playoffs. They're a game out of the playoffs right now. For as bad as we say that this team is, they're a game out of the playoffs. It's not really in probably the most competitive division that we've seen in years. It's an absolute bloodbath in the AL East. You have the Red Sox sitting in last place, who are 53 and 47. They're playing good baseball. So I just feel like they will 100%, make 4 or 5 upgrades to this team right now. And another point that I want to tack on with Candelario is, Candelario doesn't have this, kind of pressure if you would get traded here per se, like the Joey Gallo type of pressure that like you need to come in and perform instantly. If we trade for a multitude of guys at the deadline that make this lineup better, you're not gonna like hound them. I'm not gonna hound Heimer Candelario if he comes over, and he's like a below league average bat. Like I'm gonna be upset, and that's gonna suck. But this is a guy that was DFA'd by the Detroit Tigers. Like, he was on his last legs and then ended up signing with Washington and is having a great season. But this is a guy that legitimately fell off the face of the earth and just simply wasn't a good baseball player after 2021. He had a horrible 2022. And now he's completely bounced back and he's making $5 million a year for the deal that they signed him for. So if he would come over here, there wouldn't be that kind of pressure on him that you need to perform instantly. And, because like, again, there's DJ LeMahieu that's still there. So if you platoon those two guys together, then I feel like it works out well. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I just think they need to add 4 or 5 guys. And I think they will at the deadline really to make this roster better. And I think it happens at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key argument that you're kind of making right now is that the Yankees are not that far out of the playoffs. Like they're, like you said, 1-2 games. Now, the next couple of days are going to be important, and we'll see what Cashman does. But you get Judge back, you add a couple pieces. Now, you mentioned kind of the intensity of demanding player performance. Candelario probably doesn't get that. Bellinger would. Bellinger is going to be compared to Joey Gallo. Bellinger is going to be in the hot spot, in the spotlight. They're going to be hammering him if he doesn't perform. So, with that being said, I'm pretty confident right now that the Yankees are going to be making some substantial moves because if they get Judge back, if they get Nestor Cortez back and Jonathan Loáisiga, and things start to look like they're going in the right direction, Severino's coming off a decent start, we're right back in the picture here. Like we're not yelling at the team to sell, but first things first. Subway Series, 2 games against the New York Mets, and they're struggling. You got to beat up on the Mets. You got to take advantage of them right now because right after them, guys, we have a freaking gauntlet of the Baltimore Orioles, the Tampa Bay Rays, and then the Houston Astros. We need to be healthy for that 3-series, sequence right there. If we don't have Judge back and a couple of guys at the deadline, we're done. Like, they're going to smoke us. They're going to bury us in those wild card standings because the Blue Jays have a little bit of an easier schedule. So, we'll see how things go over the next couple of days. But I'll tell you what, Cashman, I know he's on the phones right now, and he's definitely going to be looking to bring in some guys ahead of the weekend if I had to guess. That way we have some of those players in the lineup against some of these better teams, especially the Orioles who are red hot and could easily bury us if we're not too careful. But guys, love to hear your perspectives below on Heimer Candelario if you think he'd be a decent fit. If you think, this is a cheap option, guys. Like, you're not giving away a lot for Candelario, so keep that in mind when you're kind of dropping your comments below. And obviously, excitement tonight. New York Yankees versus the New York Mets. Always a fun time. The rain's supposed to pass. Appreciate you guys tuning into the Fireside Yankees podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys on the next one.